everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we'll be recapping week 8 of the NFL season. It's a Halloween episode. It's Halloween, so happy Halloween to everyone. It was a crazy week and just fantasy in general. I feel like it was a really high scoring, massive individual performances. So fun week. Hopefully you guys got some wins in fantasy. Me and Josh can't say the same, but how are you, Josh?
I guess in the sense of the Chargers won, it's a moral victory. But again, I drop another one in fantasy, and it hurts. It hurts. It's getting bad out here, for fantasy wise. But the Chargers had a nice bounce back week this week on Sunday Night Football in prime time, given it was against the Bears. But hey, a win's a win, and you need to take them when you can get them. So it does feel like a little bit of a moral victory. Shane's not with us today. He also can't say the same about fantasy. Kid lost in fantasy and went to the Pittsburgh Jacksonville game where where it was a pretty brutal game in the rain. And he's got a long flight home. So the kid, he couldn't make it today, but he's crying on the plane right now. So, at least we get a smile at the thought of that.
Yeah, the demise of Shane is always a nice thought. Comment Shane slander like always, but yeah, I did want to say me and Shane did tie for Pigs champ this week for week 8. I hate tying for Pigs champ, but yeah, me and Shane tied. But since he's not here, you can crown me.
Brutal. All right. Well, I'll crown myself, but it's supposed to be on you.
Thank you.
Brutal. So
Appreciate it.
I double lost this week, so that hurts even more.
Yeah, and I didn't mention, but my Broncos somehow got a win. Not that I wanted them to. I think I would have preferred the loss, so I didn't mention it. But yeah, I guess both of our NFL teams won at least.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a crazy, weird game, a Mahomes flu game. That also didn't help you for fantasy or Caleb Williams draft stock. So, that's it's like a double whammy. You lose out on a couple things, but I mean, at least it was fun, and it was fun watching the Broncos troll the Chiefs with the Taylor Swift song at the end. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that wild game. A lot of wild games. We'll get into the games here in a second, but real quick, we'll get on to our stud and goof of the week segment. Our stud of the week, for the first time ever, we're gonna have a duo up for the stud of the week, and I think it's only right. Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins both balled out for the Titans this week. 4 touchdowns in Will Levis's rookie debut. DeAndre Hopkins with a hat trick, 3 touchdowns. It's his first touchdown of the season too. So you love that. He just needed Will Levis to bring his season alive, and you love to see it. I'm honestly really looking forward to the Titans on Thursday night against the Steelers. I'm just really looking forward to Will Levis. He was slinging it, and he was dropping it into buckets, really.
No, what an exciting first career game for Will Levis. Me and you were both very high. We need to toot our own horns. Me and you were absolutely calling out GMs for not taking this guy. I mean, for letting him fall as far as he did. I mean, me and you have both had in many drafts Will Levis going to the Colts, and we thought he was borderline, top 5, definitely top, first round pick. But I mean, he balled out, and he's the kind of prospect Will Levis was, where you take a dart throw on this guy because all the raw tools were there, of the arm strength, and you really just saw him coming. Given it's his first game, hopefully, this is the start of something great. Because, I mean, it was fantastic out there. I mean, 4 touchdowns in a rookie debut. I mean, just long touchdowns, too. I mean, Will Levis was just airing it out. And against a really good Falcons defense, too. So, I mean, that's not to be taken lightly. But, yeah, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins coming alive, Will Levis coming alive. Just what an awesome scene.
Yeah, our guy Will Levis has arrived. You love to see it. We'll talk about it more here in the game segments, but we'll get on to our goof of the week. Cooper Kupp, he had 4 catches on 10 targets, and that's just kind of the sole reason why he's my goof of the week. I personally, it couldn't have been worse timing. It wasn't a straight up trade, but I essentially traded Diggs for Cooper Kupp last week. And then, of course, Matthew Stafford proceeds to get hurt. And then Cooper Kupp has a terrible week, 2 weeks really. And it's just crazy what's going on in LA. Like, I genuinely, if Matthew Stafford isn't playing the next few weeks, I'm really scared on Cooper Kupp and every Rams option. It's like 4 catches on 10 targets is just honestly scary.
No, it couldn't have come at a worse timing for me too. In a must-win week for my fantasy football team, where a lot of players actually did good. I mean, I don't mean to talk about my fantasy team too much, but I mean, what a brutal performance from Cooper Kupp. And there was a play where he almost had a touchdown right at the beginning, on his second catch, and Deron Bland just, I think, barely got him, but he almost could have gotten in the end zone. And then the rest were just, it was just horrible. It was horrible on his part. His routes looked sloppy. I honestly, he didn't look like he was trying out there. Cooper Kupp didn't. And definitely a goof of the week. I mean, you're only hauling in 4 of 10 targets, 6 points for Cooper Kupp. Come on, dude. You're better than that. You're better than that. And I don't care if there's, a backup quarterback. I need to see better results from Cooper Kupp. And I mean, for that reason, just a total goof.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like he's been dropping way more balls than you're used to with him too. Like he's just playing sloppier than usual. So I just feel like he's warranted to be the goof of the week this week. It's not like he was completely terrible, and it's not like he's going to be terrible moving forward. It's just he's got to be better, and it's a scary option moving forward until Stafford's back.
100%. Yeah, very disappointed. Honestly, just half-ass. It looked like he was half-assing it out there, and I'm going to call him out for that. He needs to put up better numbers. He needs to do better because he just looked like he was running half-ass out there, and it just looked like he just kind of given up.
Yeah, I mean the whole Rams team kind of gave up. But yeah, there's our goof of the week segment. We'll just get right into our game recaps. We got 16 games to cover, so we'll start out with the Kincaid breakout game. Finally, it's not really a breakout game if you knew what Kincaid could do if you've been watching this year. He's a really good, talented receiver. He's always open for Josh Allen, so reliable. Awesome seeing him get that touchdown. We both started him in certain leagues of ours, and just awesome fantasy option.
And we called out on the fantasy podcast. We said start Dalton Kincaid. This is going to be the week. You start Dalton Kincaid, and if you listen to us, it paid off.
I listened to us, and yeah, it did pay off. It was really fun. Like Kincaid's just fun too. Like he's going to be a really fun tight end option to start moving forward. He's almost a lock at this point. Really fun. It's super hard to stop the Bills offense too when they're just like firing on every single cylinder. When Gabe Davis was really involved and looked pretty good, and Khalil Shakur just awesome. He's like their new zone beater. He's like their Puka Nakua. He was like Josh Allen's first read and every single play. I feel like Shakir was awesome. So love to see that. Love to see everyone getting involved for the Bills. That's kind of just kind of how they play their best. And yeah, Anton Winfield is just an absolute playmaker, game wrecker for the Buccaneers. And that's kind of my note for the Buccaneers. They gave a good effort, got some points at the end, made it close, 24-18 in the end, but not enough.
Yeah, complimentary football is what the Bills played. All cylinders. It's just so refreshing and good. I mean, we all know coming in out of the draft what Dalton Kincaid was about, especially us being, Utah boys from Utah, Utes fans. We knew this guy was something special, and it was just finally like a breath of fresh air. Finally, like he got his opportunity to finally get the share of the targets and go run and be in the offense. Not switching off with Dalton Kincaid and just being the tight end one in this offense, and it proved to be good for the Bills. I mean, he was a threat, and I hope this is what it looks like going forward. I hope he gets 90% of sorry, my mind just blanked, 90% of the snaps for his team at tight end, at least, because I mean this dude should be on the field every play. And yeah, I mean all around, I mean the Bills actually didn't run the football bad either. I mean James Cook averaging 4.9 yards or 4.8 yards a carry, excuse me. And the Bills actually just added Leonard Fournette, so got to throw that out there. That's going to be interesting. Do you think he's going to take away from James Cook?
I was going to ask you. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me, but I feel like he's going to take away from Latavius Murray. I feel like that's probably what will happen. Maybe they haven't been the happiest with Latavius Murray because he's been playing a lot. So maybe they want like a more juicier, just more athletic option in there, younger option. So I actually like the signing, but it's for fantasy. It kind of sucks, honestly.
Yeah, it makes the backfield very muddy, but I think Leonard Fournette could be a very good piece to this Bills offense. It's kind of always struggled in the run game, and maybe he'll add a more steady presence back there. And I don't know. I feel like he could. I don't know, but he's kind of old. I feel like he could definitely be a 3-down back. And I do feel like over the whole season, James Cook has been very underwhelming, and maybe James Cook gets to be more of that 3rd-down rotational player now. And you give Leonard Fournette the bulk of those carries in those tough yard situations, those 1st, 2nd down carries when you need 3-4 yards. And if that was the case, I'd be very excited. I think that could be very interesting. I'm intrigued to see how Leonard Fournette does. I'm intrigued to see if he's in shape, but it'll be very interesting. But I think he's not worth too much fab in your fantasy league, but he's worth a dart throw because you never know.
Yeah, I mean, you talking about it, like if he completely takes over the Latavius Murray role, then he will be a really good fantasy option. If not, then none of the options will be really good other than James Cook. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to monitor. I'm actually kind of excited to see how it goes.
I guess I'm just curious on what the contract numbers are. I guess that'll kind of determine what they picture his vision in the offense to be, what kind of deal they're giving him, if it's a 1 year, $2 million deal, or whether it's a 1 year, $6.5 million deal, you know. I think that'll kind of give us a truth about what his role will end up being.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it'll probably end up being something like Rashad White and him last year. Rashad White kind of ended up taking over for him. I think James Cook will probably do the same. But any other takeaways on this one?
No, the Bucks really aren't playing too bad at football. They hung in there. Obviously wasn't good enough. The Bills just clearly showed that they were the more dominant team.
Yep, the Bucks gave a good effort. They always do. But we'll get on to the next game. The Jaguars went into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers 20-10, and the Jags just continue to find ways to win. Really, it kind of felt like a trap game in the rain on the road against a really tough team, and the Jags still won pretty handily. Definitely a positive from them. The Jags again just keep rolling every week. They find ways to win on all cylinders of the football. Their defense is just playing awesome. We've been talking about them a lot, and then we've also been talking a lot about ETN, who's just honestly showing out and showing off at this point. It's crazy. Every week he has a huge splash play.
Oh yeah. Definitely a tough game for Shane to be at, to be honest. I was watching it on TV and the cameras were all wet and everything. And the Steelers just came out very, very flat and were not very exciting to watch. However, I mean, it was a cool game and it's two cool teams to watch play. And I mean, it was a hard fought battle, very low scoring. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jaguars just finding a way, whether it's sloppy or anything. I think honestly, we can say they're one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. And they're a team to be scared of to play. Because they're a scrappy football team and they'll get it done whether, I mean, I think their defense has the most turnovers in the entire league right now. Those guys are just playmakers out there. I mean, they're forcing interceptions, forcing fumbles. I mean, it's just a really exciting young team with a really good coach. And they're 6-2, the best record in the AFC right now. So watch out for the Jaguars. I mean, just a complimentary, good brand of football, and you don't want to be playing the Jags right now because they're on fire. And the Steelers, I mean, their quarterback situation, I don't know, it just kind of looks like a mess. Their running back situation is just ugly. It seems like the Steelers just don't have an identity, whether that's Matt Canada's fault or the players are just underwhelming. I mean, one positive, Deontay Johnson looks like he's him. I mean, dude's balling out. 2 games in, he's a stud. But yeah, there's just no real identity for the Steelers right now. Outside of TJ Watt's awesome, and he always is awesome, but that's kind of their identity is, just TJ Watt. And other than that, it just looks like they're lost.
Yeah, and like you said, for fantasy, Deontay Johnson, you just absolutely love what you're seeing. I did not expect this at all. He's just a must start moving forward. He's a great option. George Pickens is honestly the wide receiver too, which is kind of crazy to say. That was kind of the case last year, but we kind of expected him to take over the wide receiver 1 role. He's had some big games, but just not consistently, at least against really good teams. But yeah, interesting for the Steelers. And then the whole Trubisky thing, I don't even know like if Kenny Pickett's out for multiple weeks. I don't care. Like Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, pick your poison. It's going to be the same result for the Steelers. But on the Jaguars, you like to see Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Evan Ingram, obviously ETN, just all having a big week again.
Yeah, they all feasted. It was very complimentary. Trevor was spreading the ball very evenly. And yeah, I mean, they showed up and it wasn't their best performance, but I mean, this is a scrappy Steelers team right now. And I mean, in the rain, I mean, that's just what you want to see out of the Jaguars.
Yep, pretty ugly game, but we'll get on to the next one, an even uglier game. The Rams go into Dallas and just get completely dominated by the Cowboys, 43-20. They got dominated on all phases of the football, really. And I wanted to shout out Deron Bland, the corner for the Cowboys. He has 3 pick sixes this year. I think he had like 3 pick sixes last year as a rookie out of Fresno State. He's been awesome. if they can manage to get Jalen Johnson and pair him with Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore and then get Trayvon Diggs back, that'd be crazy. But yeah, the Cowboys defense is just crazy. Deron Bland has been a huge playmaker. He's like Trayvon Diggs 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, and really, I mean, Cowboys defense, Cowboys offense, just on fire. I mean, it was just clearly the skill gap level. You could just feel it in this game. Felt like a JV team versus a varsity game. And CeeDee Lamb, and just absolute stud. Definitely was in the conversation for stud of the week. I mean, dude, 12 receptions, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. He just could not be stopped out there. And I mean, even Dak Prescott, I mean, really played good football. He was very precise and good with the football. I mean, going 25 of 31 for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns is fantastic. That's what you want to see out of Dak Prescott. And he really had his best game this week. And it all kind of clicked for the Cowboys. And it looks like, ever since they beat the Chargers 2 weeks ago, they seem to be on a hot streak, and they seem to be a team to watch out for. Because I mean, all over the board, they're looking scary. Their offense is finally looking like it's coming together.
They really are just firing on all cylinders offensively, especially like Dak and CeeDee are looking like a really great duo right now. Pollard, honestly, something like quietly not really been talked about, but Pollard's been like one of the worst running backs in the NFL, like efficiency wise and like breaking tackle wise. I think he has the least forced missed tackles, which is crazy because last year he was just a maniac runner of the football and he was forcing missed tackles everywhere and just going crazy. So that's interesting. Tony Pollard could definitely improve, but yeah, the Cowboys have been great. You saw Jake Ferguson score. He's been awesome. And a fantasy pro tip, kind of a side note, but you must start tight ends against the Rams, no matter what. We mentioned this in the preview. The Rams defense is just historically bad against tight ends, and of course Ferguson scored in this one. The Packers are playing against the Rams this week, so start Musgrave. I think Luke Musgrave is the start this week, the start of the week for tight end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Rams are just they're at the beginning of the season, they're playing some very tough, good football. And now it just looks like the depth of the roster and these guys are just kind of getting exposed a little bit. Matthew Stafford banged up, and that's not what we want to see, especially when when Matthew Stafford force feeds Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. That's just what you hate to see him go down. And that just is what makes their offense so electric and work. So, I mean, right now, I think how long is Stafford out for? Do we know? Or is he ruled out officially?
There hasn't been an official timeline. It's looking like maybe like 2 to 4 weeks.
Man, yeah. I mean, Stafford out, Kyron Williams out. It's looking rough for the Rams. It's looking very rough. And
is it going to be Stetson Bennett?
I mean, Brett Ripien was the one that came in after, but I mean, at this point, I'd probably like to see Stetson Bennett. I think he adds an element of his legs to the field that you have to take into precaution, and I think he'd be a little bit more exciting.
As someone that's seen every Brett Ripien snap since his Boise State days, we should probably go with Stetson Bennett as someone that's not even high on Stetson Bennett either. But yeah, it's a mess, man. Like it really is scary for all Rams fantasy options. I had a lot of just Rams fantasy options in my league, so I was really watching this game close. And Stafford, even before the injury, was playing some bad football. It was really frustrating me. I started him in the league. Don't want to talk about that. Just lost by like a point in that league. Don't want to talk about that. But yeah, the Rams were just a mess, and they got dominated really.
Yeah, brutal. And with that, let's move on to the next one.
All right, we'll get on to another NFC East matchup. We got the Eagles at the Commanders. The Eagles won 38-31, and AJ Brown might just be the greatest receiver I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't understand how every week he's scoring like 2 touchdowns over mossing people. He just owns the Commanders. Or I guess we can call them the Redskins because they put up a fight.
They played good.
They're weird,
really good.
I don't understand. Like, they can go into Philly, play the Eagles twice, and play them really tough, and then they'll go to some random like Atlanta and just play terrible. They're such a weird. They've got to be the most inconsistent team in the NFL right now. They're such a weird team, but like, I guess respect to the Commanders, they did put up a fight, but yeah, AJ Brown is just too much of a monster.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Howell really did play some good football. I mean, really 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Looked like an absolute menace out there. I mean, he was slinging the rock. Jahan Dotson was on fire. I mean, all their receivers played good. I mean, Terry McLaurin, 63 yards, touchdown. Logan Thomas, 44 yards, a touchdown. Jahan Dotson, 108 yards, a touchdown. Even old man Jamison Crowder getting in here for seven receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown. So I mean, he was distributing the ball very well. I mean, it wasn't the offense that lost the ball. I mean, 31 points should be enough to win, but the Eagles ultimately were too overwhelming. And what did you think about the fake tush push that ended up in a DeAndre Swift touchdown?
Hey, I'm a DeAndre Swift owner in the league, so I loved it. I think that was brilliant. If the tush push stops working as good, then yeah, you gotta come up with some pivots, and that was a pretty smart play call.
Yeah, I mean, that was hilarious. But I mean, yeah, AJ Brown, I mean, just broke the record for the most 125 plus yard reception games in a row, 6. That's absolutely ridiculous. He's scoring touchdowns on top of that. I mean, ever since the beginning of the season, AJ Brown looked rough the first couple of weeks, and he freaked out and he wanted more targets, and that's what the Eagles have done. And
Look at him now. Look at him. Look how happy he is in that picture now. Look at him now.
I
All you got
mean,
to do is freak out.
gosh, I mean, yeah, he just got to cry for the football, and man, you go and break an NFL record through the next 6 weeks. So, congrats AJ Brown on that record. I mean, dude, it looks like an absolute monster out there. It just doesn't even look fair to guard because he's just so big and strong. And it looks like he's just boxing people out, catching passes. I mean, he's just ridiculous. And if you're an AJ Brown fantasy owner, which one guy in this podcast is, I won't mention his name. Congratulations. You lucked out. I mean, the dude's a monster this year.
And just the overall receivers in this game, Devontae Smith had a big one finally, and Terry McLaurin is just an absolute beast. Love to see that from Terry's a bona fide wide receiver 1, and then Jahan Dotson finally the last 2 games finally getting involved for the first time this whole season.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, great fantasy options all around on both of these teams. Just super exciting. I'd like to see these teams play each other every week because it's just such a high scoring, fun game.
Yeah, apparently they just match up perfectly against each other. But I guess we're done with this season. They've already got the season series done. The Eagles swept them, but we'll get on to the next game. The Saints going to Indy and beat the Colts 38-27. It kind of seems like the Saints offense is finally starting to click. It's improving a lot when they started to evolve Taysom Hill and Rashid Shaheed more. It felt like the offense is just a little bit more lethal, a little bit scarier to face, especially with Kamara playing the way he's playing. He's kind of playing like vintage Kamara. Derek Carr, you can't really talk about Derek Carr or Chris Olave, surprisingly, who's been one of the bigger fantasy disappointments. But I mean, they're getting it done. Rashid Shaheed is just looking like an electric beast every time they throw to him. It's like comical at this point. He comes down with a huge play. He's just awesome. And then for the Colts, like you have to target the Colts in every fantasy game. Like they're going to be such a high scoring game. Their defense is such a pass funnel defense. Their defense is a problem. And I predicted the Saints to win just because their defense is better.
Yeah, I mean, high scoring game again. I mean, I have to just really call out this real quick. Rashid Shaheed, 3 receptions, 153 yards, and a touchdown for an average of 51.0 yards per catch. That is awesome.
Typical Shaheed game.
The dude is just electric. I mean, Rashid Shaheed is fun to watch. I mean, the dude is just fast, gets over the top of the defense. I mean, just super electric. Yeah, I mean, and Taysom Hill out here, man, running for 2 touchdowns, just doing what he does. I mean, 9 carries, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. It works. Is it Alvin Kamara, even though Alvin Kamara just absolutely went off this game. You hate to see Taysom Hill, vulturing all the touchdowns, but I mean, they're both scoring points, so you got to be happy about that. And I mean, yeah, Derek Carr, I mean, one of his better weeks. I mean, nothing to him. I mean, you just don't feel too impressed by Derek Carr, but I mean, didn't turn over the ball, got the ball out of his hands, at 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, nothing to hate on. But I mean, this Saints team did look pretty awesome. That offense did look electric today.
Yeah, they're just getting a lot more players involved. So you love to see that. And on the Colts side, like how I said, their defense is so bad that you just have to target all Colts in fantasy. You target their offense as well because they're going to be in high scoring matchups like this almost every week. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss all went off. So you love to see that and hope that it continues.
Yeah, I think at this point we can honestly just pencil in Zach Moss as like a plug and play, even with Jonathan Taylor back. I mean, dude's still getting about 50-50 split on the carries. I mean, not too many receptions, but he just seems to find a way in the end zone, and he seems to be the goal line dude. And so you love to see that if you're a Zach Moss owner. And Josh Downs, wide receiver 1 at this point. I mean, dude is a plug and play, just fantastic, just a reception machine, and just so solid. I mean, if you have him in fantasy, start him every week from here on out. Just bona fide starter.
Absolute PPR machine moving forward. The rest of the season, you have to start him just because of the PPR. He's the first read target. He gets so many targets. You love to see it from Gardner. But with that, we'll get on to a game that I don't really want to talk about. We'll get on to the punt off. The Jets go into, all right, they stay in New York and play the Giants, and they won 13-10, and there's 24 total punts, more punts than points in this one. The pick on this graphic is a picture of a kick, because that was the most action we had all game. 7 total passing yards in the whole game by the Giants. Just, like completely choked the game after having 7 passing yards. They choked the game. They were the ones that should have won the game, just outplaying the Jets for 59 minutes with 7 passing yards. It's comical. It was a comical game, but the Jets, they had their classic Tebow game, and it was a very Tebow-esque game. I think Thomas Morstead was the Jets' best quarterback. He was their facilitator on offense. He was the one getting everything going for the Jets. So, I mean, it's just a mess, and it's kind of comical. I'm talking sarcastic if you couldn't get my tone, because the Jets need to do something to fix their season, because it's so terrible and painful to watch, man. As a Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall fan, it hurts.
Yeah, moral victories don't work for me like this. I mean, that offense, the Jets offense is terrible. Their quarterback is terrible. I mean, you should have lost to Danny DeVito, or whatever the hell his name is, something DeVito, who threw for -1 yards. You should have lost to that guy. The Graham Gano gave the game away by missing by missing an extra point. I mean, the game shouldn't have. I mean, the Giants should have won, but the Jets, I mean, they're somehow winning in spite of their awful offense. That's what it is. Just in spite of that. I mean, it's not their skill players, it's their quarterback. He's terrible, and they need to do something else.
Yeah, the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over again, and I think Saul is insane. I think it's pretty safe to say that Saul is insane. The Jets are just, their roster is perfect all around. Everyone likes to scapegoat their offensive line. Their offensive line on paper is better than and deeper than just about like 30 teams in the NFL. So that's just a crazy excuse to me. All the excuses that I hear coming out of New York is just crazy. You have a fantastic team. You have a freaking fantastic team. You have one of the best defenses I've seen in a minute. You guys just need to go get a quarterback that can, throw to Garrett Wilson and maybe hand it off to Breece Hall a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just pathetic. It really is. I watch these games, and it's just like, what are we doing? It's like you have probably the best defense. I'm going to say that. I think the Jets have the best defense. This defense keeps them in every single game. I mean, if whatever their opponent is playing, they will keep their opponent, to a very, very minimal score, create turnovers, make big plays. I mean, the defense keeps them hanging in every single game. And with the offensive side of the ball, you're just waiting for Breece Hall to break an 80-yard run, or you're hoping Garrett Wilson makes some miraculous catch and breaks 3 tackles and scores. And somehow they've been getting bailed out by that. I mean, if it wasn't for Breece Hall, taking a pass he caught at the line of scrimmage and running and breaking 3 tackles and running 70 yards, the Jets would have scored 6 points off of field goals. And that's just because their defense put them in positions to where they just were already in field goal range. So, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand. But I mean, the Giants played, their defense absolutely murdered the Jets offense, and they should have won. I mean, the Giants threw the ball a total of 14 times, had 4 completions for 7 yards, and should have won this game. I mean, that's pathetic, Jets. And if you think your quarterback's good, I'm sorry, you're sadly mistaken. You've gotten bailed out the last couple of weeks. Your record is way better than what it should be. And given if you had Aaron Rodgers, you guys are a Super Bowl caliber team. But right now, you need to go trade for Jameis Winston, get Ryan Tannehill. I don't care who it is. You need a starting caliber NFL quarterback on your team.
It does feel like we got scammed with Aaron Rodgers going down, because this team would have been so fun. Like, it definitely would have been. And yeah, that might have been the grossest win I've ever witnessed in my entire life watching football. So yeah, it
Yeah.
just exemplifies it. And the craziest thing to me, like the reason I'm like have this tone with this game, is Jets fans are just so wild to me. Like the fact that Jets fans are like happy and proud and like backing this win, the most Mickey Mouse comical Tebow, just wild win. You guys are really going to rely on getting beat 59 minutes and then just hoping that you get a Tebow Cinderella last drive when the defense is playing soft. It's just crazy. I don't understand Jets fans that can like. Jets fans have been pissing me off. But we'll get on to the Giants. Unless you have anything else you want to say on the Giants.
One thing I never understand with just NFL teams in general, not just the Giants, but what is up with the soft defense at the end of games? I mean, I get you're not trying to give up a home run ball, but when an offense has only scored no points and you just play this soft defense, I've never understood that. Like, I've never understood, you play not to lose, but you lose. It's with every single team every week when they're like, there's a last second play or something. They just play so soft and they allow receivers to get open way down the field and have like 10 yards of separation. It makes no sense to me because they're playing in the end zone and they're giving up 40-yard passes or whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me, especially when you're playing against a very poverty quarterback. But I don't know. It's just crazy. And if Tyrod Taylor played this game, I think, played the whole game, the Giants win by 20 or something like that.
Yeah, Saquon put the whole team on his back. Well, shout out Saquon. He had 36 carries. That's not a typo. He literally did everything. All the Giants passes were just backwards to Saquon. I think he had 3 catches for 0 yards. It's just crazy.
It was in overtime. They get backed up to their own 10-yard line in overtime and throw 3 1-yard passes to Saquon Barkley
in a row.
And it's like, what a Mickey Mouse victory for the Jets. But if your fans are happy with that, great. You're not winning a Super Bowl. You're not serious in the playoffs. I mean, you can't rely on your defense and Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson to make an insane play every single week to get you points.
Yeah, it's a depressing watch, to be honest. But yeah, like we predicted, this game was just a complete defensive battle. The Jets defense was better and they won. And shout out to the Giants defense, because they really did play good. The Giants defense is playing better and they have got some studs.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Just a gross game. I mean, we spent way too much time talking about this, but it's just something that needed to be addressed.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get on to the next one. The Patriots go into Miami and lose 31-17. And I think the only takeaway, actually, the biggest takeaway in this one is Ramsey's back. That's awesome. You love to see Jalen Ramsey getting picks. I feel like a fully healthy Jalen Ramsey would have made that a pick 6, but you love to see it. He's awesome. He's literally just like a top 3 corner in the NFL. So if he can be healthy and play at that rate, it's going to be huge for the Dolphins just to insert a top 5 corner in the NFL into your lineup once you're already rolling. It's awesome for the Dolphins, and these 2 receivers on the Dolphins are just literal cheat codes, man. I feel like that's the takeaway is Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle kind of just won this game by themselves just for you can't guard them. Like it's just a cheat code.
I'm going to just go out here and say Tyreek Hill is MVP. He is the cover of Madden. He is MVP right now. And I don't know if we've ever seen anything like it. I mean, I watched the first touchdown to Tyreek Hill. And it blows my mind. Every single time I watch this dude, the separation and the speed, it seems like he almost gets faster every year. I mean, he blows past these defenders, and the dude has 10 yards. In the NFL, you don't get that kind of separation. Receivers are lucky if they have inches of separation, and Tyreek Hill has yards on these guys, and he is just blatantly wide open on a go route. And he blows. He's in double coverage. He just straight up runs past. I mean, he's not even doing any moves. He just runs past him. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. He runs past the corner and he outruns the safety, and he's open by 10 yards, and it's just a walk-in touchdown. He is the MVP. He is the most lethal, dynamic player in the NFL right now, and he cannot be stopped. He is a literal cheat code, and he is my MVP pick this year.
That's like a take that I've had literally dating back to his Chief days. Is I feel like you can't say that Tyreek Hill isn't the best receiver in the NFL. Like he might not be the best route runner, might not be the best catcher of the football, he might not be the best at anything. But I just feel like when you consider like game planning wise, who the hardest receiver is to stop in the NFL, it has to be Tyreek Hill. I feel like it has to be Tyreek Hill for the last 5 to however many years he's been in the league. I feel like he's just him. I feel like he's just that guy in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's already got 1,000 yards on the season. We're 8 games into the NFL season. He has 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns.
That's comical.
I mean, he cannot be stopped. He is the best receiver in the NFL. And at 29 years old, he's the fastest player in the league. And he is the MVP right now. There is not one single player, in my opinion, even at the quarterback position, that deserves it more than Tyreek Hill, because he is the most dynamic, lethal player in the NFL. And truly, speed kills. And Tyreek Hill has proved that.
And it's so crazy. Like it's not even just the speed. Like he comes down with contested catches. His rack ability, like the way that he can like snag a ball while he's running full speed. He's just so good. Such a great receiver. You love to see that. And then on the Patriots side of things, there's nothing. You've got Ramondre, who had a bad game, who's the only fantasy option, and then Kendrick Bourne out for season. That's terrible. He was actually having a pretty good season for the Patriots, but with that, Demario Douglas is the only receiver that you could consider for the Patriots right now. I think maybe Juju, since Juju did come in after Bourne got hurt and got a touchdown, but Demario Douglas is the only stash for me right now. I think he's an interesting option, but the Patriots are such a mess.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill MVP. That's my only takeaway from this game. I my mind is blown by him. He is literally the best player in the NFL as we speak.
He's probably the poll leader for MVP. And that'd be crazy if it wasn't a quarterback. That's just who he is, though. He's just different. And we'll get on to the next one. The Falcons go into Tennessee and lose to the Titans 28-23. And how about our stud of the week, Will freaking Levis, the rookie, 4 touchdown in his debut, just beautiful. The dude was literally just dropping dimes in. His deep ball is a thing of beauty. Like just seeing red zone, flipping to the Titans games and him literally just dropping into bread baskets. He was really just throwing some beautiful balls in, and you loved Levis coming out.
Oh, dude, it was just brilliant. It was so exciting. And I've been calling the Titans out, this season. Just like, when are we going to see Will Levis? When are we going to get some excitement? We get it in week 8, man. And I hope we don't have to look back. I hope it's the Will Levis show. I'm rooting for the guy. It was just very exciting. And yeah, that deep ball, it reminded me of Justin Herbert rookie year. I mean, just dropping it in a bread basket. Looked awesome. The arm is huge. And this is what the Titans needed. They needed this spark. If they want this, resurgence, try and push for the playoffs. I think you need Will Levis in, because you're not going to get those same results with Ryan Tannehill or Malik Willis. It's got to be the Will Levis show. And seeing OG Hopkins out there with a quarterback that could get the ball down the field, just awesome. And Derrick Henry out there, it was just, it complimented Derrick Henry. Has one of his better games this year, 22 carries, 101 yards. And I think that's caused because the pass game was there, so they couldn't just key on Derrick Henry. And, if you really think about the Titans with Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears, DeAndre Hopkins, if we can ever see Chickakwanko or, some other players pick it up, they're not a bad team. And they got a pretty decent defense. So it was a good win. It was good to see them take down the Falcons. And on the other side of the ball, Desmond Ridder, we can't take this dude serious. He is such a disaster. Arthur Smith as a head coach is an absolute clown. And it's, this team has fought some competitive games, but I think we need a quarterback change and we need a head coach change. That's our key to success for the Falcons. Because just the way that they run their team is just laughable to me.
Ridder is one of the biggest messes, one of the biggest turnover machines I've literally ever watched play the position. It's crazy. He has to come up with at least like 1 or 2 turnovers every game. It's crazy. Finally, he gets benched. We were calling for Taylor Heineke before the game, and finally, we finally get to see Bijan get a rushing touchdown as well. That's good for the Falcons. You just want him to get more involved. You want him to throw it to him more, though. That's definitely something you'd like to see. And then, yeah, like sometimes you just know with quarterbacks, and like Levis already has more touchdowns than Tannehill in the season. I feel like, well, I mean, we already kind of knew as prospects. We were really high on him. We could kind of just see it. He had a terrible surrounding cast at Kentucky, and he kind of carried them. So I feel like you kind of know. It doesn't really take too long with CJ Stroud. You kind of knew he was ready for the NFL really quick, and I feel like that's the same. I feel like I'm not even like questioning it at this point. I think Levis is ready to be their future.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Let's turn the keys to Levis and let's not look back. And then just wanted to point on Bijan. Bijan did have 5 targets for 0 receptions and 0 yards. So not sure what that's about. The underwhelmingness of Bijan is just a head scratcher. I mean, it's not like he's not. I mean, he had 11 carries for 62 yards, 5.6 yards a carry, 1 touchdown. That's actually pretty proficient and good. It's just the way they utilize him. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. If you watch the Lions game tonight and the way they use Jahmyr Gibbs, that's what you want to see out of Bijan. You want to see these 25 touch games. You want to see him getting involved in the screen game because Bijan is electric. He's going to make you miss an open field. And throughout the first couple of weeks, they were doing a better job of that. And maybe with Taylor Heineke, hopefully he gets the keys for the rest of the season. I think Bijan's success could go up. I think it'd be a more balanced, better brand of football. But yeah, Desmond Ritter's out or in. I mean, it's brutal for Bijan. It hurts Bijan fantasy owners, hurt Bijan's career. So hopefully we don't ever have to see Desmond Ridder again. I mean, he's just so terrible.
Yeah, I really hope it's Heineke for the fantasy options. And yeah, for Bijan, it's tough because he definitely looks the part. You can clearly see it. And like the touchdown run, it was another awesome run. He has so many, but you just want him to force feed him because he could really, you could probably win games just by force feeding it to Bijan. And he's that good.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see a little bit more creativity. I mean, it's just the lack of creativity, boils down to the offense coordinator and the head coach. I mean, you draft a guy 8th overall, and you got to utilize him better. I mean, 11 carries is not enough. It's not good enough. I get that you have Tyler Algier backing him, and you have Cordarrelle Patterson. But at the end of the day, you drafted Bijan Robinson. This is your franchise guy. This is your franchise running back. It's the 8th overall pick. This is a blue chip prospect, and we need to see better utilization of him. We need to see the screen games dialed up. We need to get Bijan an open field. I mean, it's just not good enough. The way they're utilizing him is just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, we really saw the Titans open up their offense, throwing the ball down field more with Levis. So hopefully the Falcons can unlock something with Heineke. That would be fun. And yeah, Hopkins hat trick. He looks like vintage Hopkins. He's running wild. I love to see it. But anything else you want to say in this one?
No, just feed Bijan, fire Arthur Smith.
Fair enough. We'll get on to the next one. The Texans go into Carolina and lose to the Panthers 15-13. Really pissed at myself for not picking this. I feel like it was such a trap game. The Vegas line was so close. I had a feeling it was going to be the Panthers. But yeah, the Panthers get their first win. Shout out to Bryce. He played super well in this one. I feel like in this specific game, he definitely did outplay Stroud. I feel like it was kind of a weird game from Stroud. I feel like the offense was just anemic, obviously, but he was just holding on to the ball way too long, which is something that he hasn't shown since Ohio State. That's kind of Ohio State quarterback trait, and he hasn't shown that this year in the NFL. So that was weird. It was kind of just a weird game for the Texans. It was terrible on offense. But yeah, like defensively, the Panthers looked much better. Evero's getting things together. Their stars are showing out, and the Panthers, they showed out. I mean, I was impressed by Bryce Young and Adam Thielen's connection. I can't believe Adam Thielen's still doing so much. So shout out to the Panthers. It was a fun game. I'm not too worried about the Texans, though. It was a kind of a trap game away, and I think they'll be just fine.
It was a total trap game, and I didn't have the balls to pick the Panthers. I just thought there's just no way. But in the back of my mind, there was like, Bryce Young's just not going to want to lose this. The Panthers just are not going to drop to 0-7. There's just no way. And I just didn't have the balls to do it. And yeah, CJ Stroud did look flat. It looked like he had his first real down game in the NFL. Honestly, this is like his worst performance. And Bryce Young looked pretty proficient. He didn't look like incredible, but he looked proficient. It was enough. But I mean, honestly, both sides of the defense looked very good. Panthers defense looked awesome. The Texans defense looked awesome. Both had some very big stops. But yeah, I mean, just a weird offensive performance from both teams today. 2 rookie quarterbacks battling out. This is kind of exciting. And, good for the Panthers not dropping to 0-7. So, congratulations on your first win, Bryce Young. You didn't look terrible. Hopefully, there's more improvement and some higher scoring games coming into the following weeks, and CJ Stroud gets on, back on pace next week.
And for fantasy, the Texans was just a complete disaster. It was a mess for Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Damian Pierce, just everyone. It was a mess. Hopefully, they can kind of get back to their form. But for the Panthers, we definitely got confirmation that Chuba is their new workhorse moving forward, and Miles Sanders had 0 carries. So that's probably the right move. And yeah, Chuba's that guy. So if you can get him in fantasy, he's a good RB2.
We were tricked by a fantastic Philadelphia offensive line that made Miles Sanders really look like an all-pro last year with 1,300 rushing yards and like 10 touchdowns. And I was hounding for Miles Sanders drafters, and I never actually ended up getting to draft Miles Sanders. But what a letdown! 0 carries. It looks like it's the Chuba Hubbard show. Not that he was very good. 15 carries for 28 yards. I mean, not that he looks very impressive, but he seems to be the workhorse in this offense.
Yeah, that's the funniest part is I feel like Chuba Hubbard is just not a starting running back like last year when they traded McCaffrey and Foreman would go down. Chuba was not really efficient or good. He did not pass the eye test for me at all. And so seeing him in this role is kind of funny to me, but that just shows how bad Miles Sanders has been.
Yeah, I mean, trade deadline is tomorrow. I'm hoping the Panthers make some kind of move. I mean, I know that they're, 1-6, and it's kind of hard to go out and trade, pay premium capital, but I mean, maybe just not even Adam Thielen really is looking like an alpha wide receiver one, but I don't know, maybe a big threat guy that can get down the field would be kind of exciting. Whether they have to trade or sign somebody, it'd be beneficial for Bryce Young and his progression in his first year.
Yeah, definitely. They need someone. They need someone electric. They need a playmaker like Hollywood Brown or someone. But that we'll get on to the next one. The Vikings are they go into Green Bay and beat the Packers 24-10, and it was a depressing game. Super rough blow for Vikings fans. Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles and is out for season. It's just terrible. They were starting to look like pretty good, and they're a playoff team. They're in the 7th seed right now, so that's very depressing for the Vikings, who started off very rough. And like honestly, Kirk was playing great football. I do want to give him a shout out. Like he was playing some really good football all year. He was making all the Vikings just options really productive. And yeah, shout out to Kirk Cousins. He's an awesome facilitator of the offense, and it sucked. It's really so depressing. I think it's going to be Nick Mullins filling in for him rest of season. I don't really see them like trading for like a Tannehill or Jameis. They could, but I do think it's going to be Nick Mullins when he's healthy in week 10. But for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be Jaren Hall. So that could be a little rough. Looks like they're going to lose their seventh playoff position. But yeah, it's just depressing. And I guess we'll see if Justin Jefferson comes back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Jaren Hall for the next 2 weeks. Not the worst quarterback out of BYU starting in the NFL, in my opinion. But it is too bad. Kirk Cousins is playing really good football. I mean, a very, very good game from him, yesterday. And then, yeah, it's too bad to see him tear his Achilles and go out for season, especially as they seem to kind of be getting on the right track, I mean, 0-4, and is that 4 straight wins for them?
Yeah, and like I feel like this was just like better than last year's Vikings team. Like their defense was good. Like I really do feel bad because they were looking pretty good.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a fantastic comeback story. And then getting Justin Jefferson back here in a couple weeks, it's too bad to see him go down. It is a brutal blow. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do for the rest of the season, if they decide to trade people off or if they're going to decide to not go down with a fight and keep fighting and trying to be competitive this season. And on the Packers side of the ball, I don't know what's going on over there. It's bad. It's a lot worse than what I thought it was going to be. Jordan Love just not looking. I don't know if it's all Jordan Love. It's just kind of a flat coaching staff. Just the offense is flat. There's no run game. They haven't been able to establish. And again, it kind of makes me, even though the Steelers, I would say, are a lot better at this point, but like the the Packers are another team that just doesn't have an identity. There's just no identity of the team. They have there's just nothing there. You can't figure out if their defense, their offense, if they have a playmaker. There's no identity to that team. And it just looks like it's just slowly crumbling. And, the Packers might be in for a top 10 pick. And who knows? I mean, Jordan Love, not the worst quarterback in the NFL by any means, but it's looking brutal out there.
Yeah, he's not the worst quarterback in the NFL, and we were both pretty high on him. And I've just been completely disappointed by Jordan Love. If I'm being completely honest. I'm just disappointed. I think that they're like in the sweepstakes for like a top 5, top 10 pick for quarterback at this point. It's bad. It's just
Yeah.
they suck.
I mean, I would like to see Jordan Love. I mean, I don't know if it's all Jordan Love's fault or if the receivers are very flat. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame quarterback, was able to make it work, but obviously Jordan Love's in his first starting year. And I don't know, it looks rough. No one looks comfortable out there. And yeah, there's no identity. And that's just my takeaway is the Packers have no identity, and it looks like they're fighting for nothing at this point.
Yeah, they're just so stale. And yeah, shout out to Jordan Addison. He's just absolutely balling.
Oh man.
He's so good.
Dude's electric. He looks like he's going to be a stud in the NFL for a long time. And what a wide receiver duo between Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson coming up. I mean, it's awesome. And it was fun to see Jordan Addison really, these next weeks and the previous weeks really get his opportunity to get comfortable in this offense and become that wide receiver one while Justin Jefferson's out. But it's going to be like a AJ Brown, Devontae Smith type situation in Minnesota. They got a good duo.
Yeah, I feel like with how good Addison's looking, it's gonna like almost rush Jefferson back. Like I feel like fantasy owners don't even need to really feel worried about him like holding out the rest of the season, just because I feel like with Addison balling, I feel like he'll want to be out there with him when he's healthy. So I'm not worried about him like holding out or anything.
100%. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see those two duo going forward, especially with the backup quarterbacks. So I mean, just a weird feeling from this game, weird conclusion, weird injury, just an overall kind of brutal. Even though the Vikings won, this game feels like a loss for both teams.
Definitely a loss. And it's if you have any Vikings options, they all take a blow. All fantasy options for the Vikings take a huge blow. Let's just be real. And yeah, I gotta say it. Cam Akers is the best Vikings running back. I think every Vikings fan knows it. A lot of Vikings accounts that I follow know it. So yeah, I think that Cam Akers needs more run.
100%. Cam Akers is definitely the best running back in that offense. Let's stop talking about Alexander Madison and get him on the bench where he belongs.
Yeah, definitely would benefit the team. But we'll get on to the next one. The Browns go into Seattle and lose a really close one, 24-20. Like I'm being honest, they would have won this game if PJ Walker didn't throw that ball at the very end of the game. And just if they would have ran it, if they would have punted it, if they would have done anything other than PJ Walker throwing it for a terrible, like weird tipped up into the 500 feet in the air for a pick. It was just terrible. He lost the Browns that game on that play, I'll be honest. But shout out to the Seahawks, first in NFC West over the 49ers. So that's just huge. You love to see that. They're clicking on offense and defense. You add a Leonard Williams, speaking of defense, like that's a huge W. Awesome addition. Second round pick for Leonard Williams. You got Draymond Jones in the offseason. Your defense is already looking a lot better. That's awesome. You really love to see that. Yeah, the Seahawks are just clutch on both sides of the ball. I feel like they're just a really clutch team. Their stars are clutch. They come out when they need. And yeah, that defense is just massively improved. And then someone I want to shout out on that defense is Boye Mafe. He was a kind of a high upside edge rusher out of Minnesota, and he's just been absolutely breaking out for the Seahawks this year. So you love to see that with Uchenna Nwosu getting hurt. And yeah, super close game that PJ Walker ultimately kind of lost at the end. So I feel bad for the Browns.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you feel bad for the Browns, but also a huge win for Seattle. And yeah, Seattle did lose Uchenna Nwosu, which was a big blow to that defense. But I mean, you go out and get Leonard Williams, and that's gonna be a huge improvement. Leonard Williams getting traded today for a second. It was a second and a fourth, I believe, from the Giants. The Giants are now in tank mode for Caleb Williams. Sorry, Dan, it's gonna be a fight to the end to see who can get him. But yeah, Giants are in full tank mode. They made the first move right there after that brutal loss to the Jets. They go and we're done. Let's have a fire sale. I bet there'll be some more people coming off the Giants tomorrow. It's Caleb Williams time, and we'll see who ultimately wins that sweepstakes. But I mean, yeah, Seattle very complimentary. I don't think Geno Smith had his best game. Definitely more sloppy than usual. But overall, Kenneth Walker is an absolute beast. I mean, their receivers are just absolute. I mean, their wide receiver trio finally getting Jackson Smith and Jigba a little bit more involved, which you'd love to see. I mean, all three of those receivers are viable in this offense, and the defense is fantastic. I mean, their corners. I mean, every aspect of that team from the defensive line now to the corners to the safeties are just so solid, and like you predicted, and those jerseys, those are drippy too.
They're
those
so
jerseys
sick.
those jerseys were definitely clean. It was an awesome throwback. But as you said in one of our previous Seekers podcasts, that you had Seattle as a sleeper Super Bowl team, I wouldn't be surprised by that at this point. It looks like your prediction is holding good, and I mean, definitely could be a very good sleeper and or Super Bowl team.
Kind of hilarious. My Super Bowl pick was the Bengals and Seahawks, and that started off terrible. But like right now in week 8, that's starting to look a little better. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, tough loss for PJ Walker, but not much more to talk about this game. Um, I mean, fantasy options for the Browns and stuff. Looks like Kareem Hunt had an okay game. Amari Cooper, you got to start him every week, and then really start everyone in that Seattle offense. They're distributing the ball so well.
And definitely monitor Charbonnet. Charbonnet outsnapped Kenneth Walker this week. It didn't really seem like it because Kenneth Walker was so productive. He always is, but I think it was just kind of because he missed some practices this week. I think they were kind of just it was kind of more for injury, but definitely monitor that. Charbonnet outsnapped him by a good amount, and Charbonnet looked good too.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, with that, we'll get on to the next one. The Bengals go into San Fran and beat the Niners 31-17. Definitely like the biggest win of the week. That was awesome. This is the Bengals. They're here. They've arrived. Burrow's arrived. He's healthy for sure. He looks back. I think the Bengals are fully back, and yeah, I'm happy. Burrow's throwing dots. He was just kind of dicing up the Niners all game, and I would say that pretty confidently this was definitely Mixon's best game. I don't even know statistically, but just like watching the game, passing that test, I feel like this was his best game. He kind of asserted himself against a really good run defense, and he kind of just asserted himself. And the Bengals are physical. Their defense is just badass. They really made Purdy kind of struggle and just made it hard for Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, Bengals, at the beginning of the season, if I'm remembering correctly, they started off 0-3. Yeah, and now they're on a 4-game win streak. They're starting to come alive. Joe Burrow's looking healthy. Talked a lot of heat on him at the beginning of the season. I got to take that back. He's proven me wrong. He looks to be finally being able to move in the pocket a little bit better, distributing the ball. I mean, and what a statement win over the 49ers. I know the 49ers are struggling these past couple of weeks. Trent Williams is out. Debo's out. They do have some big losses that they're waiting, to get healthy. But, I mean, the 49ers look rough. They've looked rough, and I don't know. I don't know if it's time to hit the panic button, after 3 straight losses. I don't know if it's the injuries that really are what are affecting them. I mean, obviously it's some big time players out, but man, I mean, it is looking rough out there in San Francisco, giving up a lot of points. 31 points on that defense is like, come on. But I mean, the Bengals, awesome game, like you said. Joe Mixon's best game by far. Finally, a breakout game for Joe Mixon, and just the Bengals looking lethal and looking like they're ready to make that playoff push right now.
Yeah, definitely. You love to see it. And the Bengals and Bills face off on Sunday Night Football this week. So that's going to be a really fun one. They're both starting to kind of heat up. And yeah, I feel like 3 losses in a row for the 49ers. I feel like they're really missing D'Amico Ryans kind of clearly. Steve Wilkes hasn't been as good. He's not really as confident as D'Amico Ryans. When I watch the Niners, their defensive play calling is kind of all over the place. They don't really stick with zone or man. They're just all over the place. D'Amico Ryans is just a big loss that kind of has proved. And I want to ask you, like, it's a weird conversation, but what are your thoughts on Purdy as of right now in week 8?
Oh, it's tough to say because I mean he's really not playing horrible football. I mean he's making a lot of boneheaded plays. I mean he's still decently efficient. But I don't know. I mean, am I hitting the panic button yet? No. I think the 49ers are in a slump and they need to find their footing. And I think the defense is just I don't know. I feel like it's a slump, and I feel like Kyle Shanahan will get him out of it. And I feel like Purdy's due for a bounce back game. He's looked rough over the past 2 weeks, but I'm not hitting the panic button yet on him.
Yeah, I'm not either. I just wanted to ask. I'm not either. But yeah. Anything else on this game?
No, I have seen a lot of people talk a lot of heat on Purdy and are throwing him under the rug. But trust me, there's worse quarterbacks out there. There's worse quarterbacks out there. And so far in Purdy's career, he's been very efficient. These are his first 3 regular season losses in his career. So I'm not hitting the panic button. I think the 49ers are just I don't know if they got a little bit, if they fell asleep at the wheel or something, but I think this was kind of a major wake up game for them, and I think we'll see them improve in the coming weeks.
Yeah, like I'm not hitting the panic button just because I think that he really misses Debo. I think Debo has a bigger part and bigger role in this offense than people are realizing. And yeah, I think that's obviously obvious at this point.
Oh yeah, and Trent Williams, being out is definitely huge too. I mean, when you lose a guy like that, I mean, 2 of your best offensive, players, I mean, that's definitely affecting something.
Yeah, not having the best offensive lineman in the NFL definitely makes you a little bit less uncomfortable in there.
Yep. So, well, I think we're due for a big bounce back game next week, and I guess that's when we'll have a serious discussion.
Shout out to the Bengals defensive line, Trey Hendrickson, again, just relentless, and he's such a beast and so underrated. But we'll get on to the next one. The Ravens go into Arizona and beat the Cardinals 31-24. The Cardinals kind of had some garbage time, Hollywood touchdown at the end to make it close. But yeah, I think the Cardinals competed like they always do. They just really lack the talent to ultimately like hang with these teams in the end, especially with the Ravens in the end. But yeah, good game. I think the only shout out in this game is Gus Edwards. He just absolutely rolled the Gus Bus game. He just dominated, 3 touchdowns. He heard all the rumors of the Ravens looking to trade for a running back, and he had none of that. So shout out to Gus Edwards, good stuff. And then shout out to Lamar, his touchdown to Mark Andrews, where he did his little his legs were just all over the place, and he's just sidearm, just crossbody. He's so good. He doesn't need a base. He really throws it with like the best of them in the NFL in the pocket. He's just a badass thrower.
Yeah, I mean, really not too much to talk about this game. I mean, obviously, the score looks a little closer than it really was. And I just want to shout out Gus Edwards and I want to shout out Deontay Foreman last week. Total of 6 touchdowns scored against me in 2 weeks in fantasy from Deontay Foreman and Gus Edwards. So, absolutely love to see that. Got to shout those guys out for, dropping me 2 games. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate your weird, random 3 touchdown game performance, but absolutely brutal to see.
That's immaculate. If you would have told yourself that Gus Edwards and Deontay Foreman are scoring 6 touchdowns on you in a full season, you would be shook.
Oh man. Yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, not too much to talk about this game. Ravens did what we thought they would do, and honestly, we kind of thought it'd be a little bit more of a blowout, but the garbage time kept the score a little closer than it really was.
Yeah, and for the Cardinals, it looks like Josh Dobbs is being benched. It looks like it's going to be Clayton Tune this week and then Kyler the week after. So that's interesting. I feel like Josh Dobbs did a decent job for the Cardinals, but yeah, and Trey McBride, he was the tight end 1 this week. That's just awesome to see. He finally gets a shot. So you love to see that. And Trey McBride's like a start option moving forward.
100%. Yeah, it'll be exciting. Be exciting to see what Clayton Tune can do. Probably not too much, but it'll be fun to have a little mix up for the Cardinals at this point.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. We'll get on to the next game. The Chiefs go into Denver and lose to the Broncos 24-9. What I don't even like the Chiefs. I have a lot to say in this game. Like I lost my fantasy game because of it. I'm a Broncos fan, so it was a weird marriage. But I just Mahomes has got to play better. Like he was actually terrible. Genuinely, I don't care if he had a flu. I understand that the flu sucks, but like I don't really think it affects you throwing it into like double, triple coverage to Travis Kelce just forcing it. I don't think that the flu affects that kind of stuff. And Mahomes was just bad. He was just throwing bad picks. Had a fumble, just careless. The Chiefs literally like got outplayed too. Like that's another thing I want to say is they like the Broncos almost just dominated them. Like they couldn't even get back into the game. They had some opportunities and they just couldn't do anything. So it was just kind of overall pathetic on the Chiefs end. And yeah, I was just out. I was just disappointed because they got outplayed by the Broncos. So yeah.
I love to see it as a Chargers fan. I was definitely rooting for the Broncos in this one. Anytime to see a Chiefs lose, it feels good. And yeah, Patrick Mahomes was just flat out terrible. The Chiefs were just flat out terrible, and it was a trap game for the Chiefs. They came out here flat, and the Broncos just gave them a good old fashioned butt whooping. And I love to see it. And Russell Wilson was efficient, 3 touchdowns. Javonte Williams was good. Cortland Sutton was good. Jerry Jeudy. I mean, it finally snapped for the Broncos today, and it was fun watching the Chiefs lose. And I mean, just everyone was terrible on the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, I definitely did want to shout out the Broncos defense at least. That is one of the weirder developments in the NFL. A team that could give up 70 just a few weeks later, having a really, really good performance against the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. Like, shout out to the Broncos defense. Shout out to Vance Joseph. They kind of figured things out. They had a great game plan. Baron Browning, finally back from injury, finally 2 sacks. He could really be something special. He flashes every time he's out there. He's just a little bit injury prone, but he's awesome as an edge rusher. Justin Simmons, fun fact, 5 picks on Mahomes for Justin Simmons. That's the most interceptions that Mahomes has thrown to any player. So that's just a pretty crazy stat. It does feel like that's one lock every time the Broncos and Chiefs play is Simmons will get a pick, or just Mahomes will throw a pick. He loves throwing picks to the Broncos. He's just a pick machine this year in general. I guess I'll mention that. But and yeah, a shout out to Javonte Williams as well. He's back. He's turning into the complete workhorse. He had 27 carries. So for fantasy, it looks like Javonte was a great pick, and you just had to hold on to him, just wait. And he's getting healthier, and he's looking awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that Mahomes is 8 interceptions on the year. He is playing a sloppier brand of football, and I mean, the Chiefs just always somehow figure out a way to win. So it's crazy that the Broncos, they dropped one to the Broncos, and they beat the Broncos since TikTok was invented. I was reading all these crazy stats, or they haven't lost the Broncos since I don't even know how long it's been. It's been crazy, but it is nice to see the Broncos give them, a little bit of a butt whooping, and it feels like the Chiefs, it seems like every team in the NFL this year is honestly just very beatable. Doesn't seem like there's any true superpowers, and I that's one thing I'm going to point out this year. I love to see that.
And then 2 more notes for the Chiefs receivers is Rashee Rice is a beast. You love that he's the wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs, and he is fast as hell. I didn't realize how fast Rashee Rice was. So that's a great option. And another thing, Sky Moore sucks. That guy is terrible. He's the worst receiver I've ever seen. He dropped an easy touchdown. He's just a terrible receiver.
Sky Moore is awful. That was definitely a miss. It's crazy to say the Chiefs missed on anyone, but yeah, Sky Moore is absolutely awful.
Can't believe how bad he's been. But yeah, good game from the Broncos. They showed up. They had a good game plan, a really good game plan, honestly. So shout out to the Broncos. We'll go on to the Sunday night football game. The Bears went into LA and lost to the Chargers 30-13. And like, if I'm being honest, this one was like one of the more painful games to watch of the week, just because like it just felt like there was no fight at all. It just felt like complete murder. It was almost like depressing. But yeah, it was surgical stuff from Herbert. It really was one of the more surgical games I've seen from Herbert. He just making the right choices, and yeah, very surgical stuff. And love what you see.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, and it did feel like, just that first half of the Chargers, there's no punts. It was a score on every single drive that they had. And it finally looked like Herbert. I don't know if it was the finger. I mean, ever since he got that finger injury, the last couple of weeks, he'd played, his worst football of his career. And I know he said it was tis nothing but a scratch. But I mean, clearly with that giant thing on his finger, it was more than a little scratch. There's actually reports that you could see the bone. And I don't know if I know it's not on his throwing hand, but if it just affected plays and snaps and just affected him overall. Because I mean, we've seen Herbert the past couple of weeks miss some throws that we've never seen Herbert miss. And so I don't know if it's his finger, but I mean, he finally looked comfortable this week. It looks like, he's not wearing that big glove on his hand, and he played just it was one of his most surgical games. He went through his progression. He made the right reads, and it was a good old fashioned beatdown. And I mean, yes, it was on Tyson Bagent, but it was a must win game for the Chargers, and their defense came out there and made a statement. And they held Deontay Foreman to like 2.4 yards a carry. The Bears run game wasn't there, and Chargers were kind of firing on all cylinders, minus the run game. But I mean, the Chargers pass game and their defense did look very good today. So.
Honestly, shout out to the Chargers defense in general. They looked really good in this game specifically, but their defensive line, their front seven, has played pretty awesome this year. Their secondary hasn't been great, but I mean, this game they played really good. So, yeah, you love to see that from the Chargers defense. They're playing better, and yeah, I feel like every week we watch Jordan Addison ball out, and we kind of feel like the Chargers definitely missed on Jordan Addison, but at least you can say that Quentin Johnson had a pretty decent game. He's starting to get more involved. Finally, they're using him like TCU did. I don't know what they were thinking not using him like TCU did. Just give him crossers. Just let him rack it up. That's what he does. So just do what he's comfortable with, and I think Quentin Johnson will be good.
Yeah, finally looked like Herbert gained a little bit of confidence in him and just finally started looking his way, and he was getting through his reads better. And yeah, Quentin Johnston was very proficient, very good. I mean, his stats aren't crazy, but I mean, 5 for 50 yards. But if you watch the plays, I mean, I think on those out of 4 of those 5 catches, he accounted for first downs. And then he also had a big time pass interference that got called on him down the field. So that was he totaled for 5 first downs in this game. And yeah, I mean, I don't know why it's so hard to use this guy like TCU did. You get him on crossers, you get him on some comebacks, and the guy is he's not Mike Williams in the sense of physicality, but he's a big play threat, and you just got to get the dude in open field. And they got him on a crosser, and he made I think 2 dudes miss and was able to get the first down. So, hopefully this is a sign of things to come. But, maybe I know a lot of people dropped Quentin Johnston over the past couple of weeks as he just looked irrelevant, but maybe now's the time to stash for the next couple of games to see how this goes. And Josh Palmer did re-injure his knee, so we could be seeing another bigger game for Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, if Palmer doesn't go, then I think Quentin Johnson's like a start lock almost. I feel like watching that performance, seeing Herbert actually look at him and trusting him, you can trust that Quentin Johnson's startable if Joshua Palmer doesn't play. But yeah, even if Palmer's there, Quentin Johnson's definitely a stash option.
Yeah, and I mean, Keenan Allen, that dude is just so consistent out there, just an absolute dog, a PPR machine. But if Gerald Everett doesn't play in some deeper leagues, I think Donald Parham is a borderline starter. He gets a lot of red zone targets. He gets a lot of big catches, and he gets targeted by Herbert. Herbert definitely is trusting him. So if Gerald Everett is still injured next week, and you need a waiver wire tight end, look for Donald Parham because he seems to get in the end zone. Yeah, he's gotten in the end zone. I'll read you the stats real quick. I think he's missed a couple games too, but Donald Parham has scored 4 times this year, which is not great, but I mean that's almost every other game.
He definitely gets touchdowns. I feel like even if Everett plays, I feel like he's just a good dart throw. If you really are desperate for a tight end dart throw, he's got a decent chance at a touchdown for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they really involved Donald Parham in the red zone, which you love to see. So yeah, good bounce back game for the Chargers, against the poor Bears defense, but it was a must win game. Chargers were probably going to fire sale if they lost this game, but it doesn't seem like they're too far out of the playoffs at 3-4. Definitely could have a resurgence if they start winning the next few weeks.
And for the Bears, it looks like it's going to be Bayesian again this week. So no more Justin Fields for at least one more week. So just keep that in mind for all the Bears fantasy options. And yeah, I said free Jalen Johnson in the preview episode, and he wants himself freed. He just barely requested a trade as we started recording this. So that's awesome. And is there anywhere that you would specifically like to see him play? I would love the Cowboys. I think that's a great fit.
Cowboys be electric after Trayvon Diggs went down, but give me the Chargers, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Chargers fan. The Chargers secondary has been absolutely brutal this year, have given up tons of plays, had to trade JC Jackson because of locker room confrontation and just didn't fit well in the culture and the system. And so the Chargers are a team in desperate need of a corner and a true alpha corner one. And I think this is kind of the year that Tom Telesco pushed in all his chips. And, I would love to see him make a move for a true alpha corner one, because that could be a substantial boost to the Chargers secondary. So, and the Chargers can definitely give up the draft capital next year. And if Tom Telesco's job's on the line, he is on the hot seat, it's not your problem next year with the salary cap. So go out there, get Jalen Johnson. I think that would be absolutely electric. And then one other team, who I wouldn't think would be a bad move for either. which they already have a very good defense, but maybe even the Bills, the Bills could definitely, I mean, almost every team could benefit from a really good corner, but I mean, the Bills looking for a Super Bowl push, this would be another alpha guy to add to your defense, which would be absolutely electric.
Yeah, just plug him in for Trey White. That'd be awesome. And yeah, as a Broncos fan, I hope that the Chargers don't sign or don't trade for Jalen Johnson. That would just be scary. That would be like the missing piece, I feel like, to that defense. But anything else you want to say in this one?
No, good bounce back win for the Chargers. Tough outing for the Bears. Obviously, it's Tyson Bagent right now, but DJ Moore underwhelming in fantasy. Cole Kmet stepped up, had 10 receptions for 79 yards. But moving forward, I think you can both start those two pretty comfortably, and I think that's kind of it. I don't know about their running backs. It's kind of a committee right now, so I don't feel too confident in them.
Yeah, until Justin Fields gets back, when they're all healthy and all in a committee, I'm not really starting any of the Bears running backs. But with that, we'll get on to the last game of the week, the Monday night game. The Raiders went into Detroit and lost to the Lions 26-14. I feel like it was a pretty decent effort from the Raiders. Max Crosby is just always making plays, always keeping him in it, which is impressive. Like with how bad Jimmy was playing today, with just how bad the Raiders were on the road. It was a mess. Like free Devontae Adams, he looked genuinely just defeated out there. He had one catch. That's just unacceptable. It's looking like Devontae Adams is going to kind of be the talk of the week for the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, brutal performance from the Raiders offense. I mean, they had one good drive where they really committed to the run game with Josh Jacobs. And that point, the score, they didn't tie it up, but it was 9-7. And it looked like they had something rolling, and then they got a pick six. But after that, I mean, it was all Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs really found his footing today. Looked like a alpha running back one. I mean, this is the kind of stats you want to see from like a Bijan Robinson. I mean, this is what the Lions did with Jahmyr Gibbs: 26 carries, 152 yards, one touchdown, and then in the passing game, 5 receptions for 37 yards. Beautiful. That guy is a true RB1. He's a true workhorse. You get him the ball, great things happen. And that's kind of, off tangent with Bijan. That's what you want to see from Bijan. That's what you want to see from these high draft picked running backs, guys that are going in the first round. You want to see this kind of production from them, and these kind of touches. And the Lions did a really good job involving him today. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that guy is just a beast. Sam Laporta, absolute monster. If you got him on your fantasy team, you lucked out. But yeah, I mean, the Raiders on the offensive side of the ball and Jimmy Garoppolo just looked terrible. And Devontae Adams threw a fit on the sideline. I mean, he asked for it. He wanted to, this is where you sent a tweet and it said, this is where he wanted to be. I don't feel bad for him. He forced himself to Las Vegas. And, you force yourself to a franchise like that, this is the result you're going to get. So, I don't feel bad for Devontae Adams, but I wouldn't be surprised if he forced himself out of Vegas in the next, day.
Yeah, he forced himself out of like the best quarterback receiver connection that I've ever seen for Derek Carr. So yeah, that was all on him. You can't really blame anyone but Devontae Adams, who wanted that one. But yeah, hopefully he does get his trade, because I'm sure he'll want one again. But yeah, just like you reading off Jahmyr Gibbs' stat line was just like incredible. Like he just balled, and watching him, he just shoots out of a cannon. He's so quick, so fast, so athletic. And Sam Laporta too. They definitely hit on those offensive draft picks. They're going to be huge pieces for Dan Campbell moving forward.
Yeah. And here's a stat line for the Raiders. Their leading receiver today was Josh Jacobs on 2 receptions for 27 yards. I mean, it was brutal. And Jimmy Garoppolo did miss Devontae Adams on a go-ahead, a touchdown that actually could have kept him in the game with 4 minutes to go. Absolutely just overselled him by about 10 yards when he was wide open. Yeah, I mean, it's looking brutal out there for the Raiders. But again, you always have to shout out Max Crosby. I mean, the dude plays harder than anyone you've ever seen. I mean, he gives more effort than, any other player in the NFL. And yeah, you just got to respect that. I mean, this dude keeps the Raiders defense relevant.
He plays so hard. He just makes play after play. When you watch the Raiders, it's just crazy what he does with a bunch of no names on the defense. He just makes so many plays. It's awesome. And on the offensive side, just involve Michael Mayer. I don't know what the Raiders are doing. Maybe cut Austin Hooper, never put him on the field again. and just play Michael Mayer as your starting tight end because he's good. Michael Mayer is a really good tight end. I don't know what we're doing, just not even involving him. He looks good when they throw it to him too. Like, I don't understand Michael Mayer not having a Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid impact because he's that good. He's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that dude should be right up there with him. I mean, it was the year of the tight ends, and I don't know what the Raiders do and why they're not involving him, especially when your offense is this flat. But I mean, it's time for the Raiders to make a change or do something. I mean, it seems like it's been the same thing for the Raiders. Just it's brutal being a Raiders fan out there, and I love it because I'm a Chargers fan, but I do feel it for you Raiders fans because it's been a brutal past like 20 years for you.
Such a mess. They need to move on from Josh McDaniels, and I think that this season's just over at this point.
Yeah, I think you can write this Raiders season off, even though Max Crosby will somehow make the game competitive single-handedly. I think it's time to write this season off, and I think they would be wise to sell some players right now and try and get draft capital, and eventually get off of Josh McDaniels and maybe even a new GM and really just restart that organization.
Yeah, like you said, we respect Max Crosby and Adams and Jacobs so much that it's almost like you just want to see him get traded into a different situation because it's that bad here. But yeah, that was really fun covering all the games on our Halloween episode. Super fun. I feel like it was a very in-depth takeaway episode. So yeah, tune into the NFL Seekers podcast on all platforms. And yeah, thanks for joining, Josh.
Yes, sir. It's a fun one.
All right, peace.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.